Welcome to the TechTalks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Today I have an uber cool guy on the podcast. The kind of guy I could just chat away with for absolutely hours about anything and everything. And his name is Peter Hurley, and he's a world famous portrait photographer and official partner of Canon plus B&H Photos. And he appeared on my radar after he recently launched the first ever photography inspired NFT collection called Shabangrs. And of course, anyone in the area or fans of photography will know that is named after Peter's world-famous catchphrase, Shabang. And the collection features over 2,500 unique pieces that all come with utilities and also enter holders into giveaways, raffles and so much more. So I want to learn more about the story behind Shabangrs, how Shabangrs owners will receive citizenship in Shabangrsville, a virtual city in the Metaverse, Shabucks, the currency. There's so much we're going to be talking about. And I want to learn how that technology is connecting and helping people collaborate with other photographers and creatives around the world. All I can say is, trust me, you're going to love this one. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to New York, where Peter Hurley is waiting to speak with you all. But before I do, I just want to grab a picture of you all. So if you can all just move into the centre. Yep, the tall one's at the back. If you could just kneel down in the front. Okay. If you can smile for me. Perfect. And Shabang! So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm Peter Hurley. I am a portrait photographer. I'm based out of New York City. And I've been shooting for about 20 years. And I just recently co-founded a project, an NFT project called Shabang. It's a photo industry creatives project that's been amazing and could consume my time over the past couple of months, but it's been such a whirlwind. So I'm enjoying it, but I'm predominantly a photographer. I also am the founder of the Headshot Crew, which is the largest group of headshot specialists in the world, where there's about 19,000 of us roaming around the planet. So if you need a headshot, definitely go to the Headshot Crew and find one. But that's me.
There's a lot to unpack there. Photographer in New York City and obviously Shabangrs. So I've got to ask, what is your origin story? Where did your passion for technology come from? And how did technology and photography and all those worlds collide for you and put you on this path you're on?
Well, it's amazing to me. So my story's funny, I think. I graduated from school and didn't know what I was going to do with my life from college. And I was a good sailor. So I ended up training for the Olympics. And while I was training for the Olympics, I met a designer who was, hey, you're good looking. You should go model. So I got a job shooting for Ralph Lauren. And it was the first job I had. And Bruce Weber was a photographer on the shoot. And we became friends, and he took pictures of me. And then over the years, I was the model, actor, bartender dude. I didn't make the U.S. team at that moment while training for the Olympics in the sport of sailing. It was the Laser was the boat I sailed. And then Bruce encouraged me to pick up a camera, and I was like broke, working in a bar till 4 a.m., hated it, and was like, I got to figure out how to make some money. Maybe I'll just do this camera thing. So I actually decided to jump back for the 2000 Olympics. I made the U.S. team that time. I did not go to the Olympics. The first guy goes, and I finished fourth, but the top 5 guys made the team. So it was cool to say I was a member of the United States sailing team. Yeah. And then I was like, I got back to New York, and I was like, I got to make some money. I'm not going back into a bar. And I picked up a camera, and then I just started shooting my friends that were models, and one thing led to another. One of them was an actor and was like, hey, I need headshots. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And then I became this headshot specialist, and I've been doing that for 20 years now. It's been quite a ride.
Yeah, an incredible story. I absolutely love that. And of course, it was that path that ended up to you launching this first ever photography-inspired NFT collection, Shabang.
It's crazy.
Shabangrs, yeah. Am I right in saying it was named in honor of your catchphrase, Shabang? I mean, it feels like there's got to be another story there, right?
Yeah, there is another story there. And I didn't answer you about the tech. The tech stuff, for me, thinking about photography, look at the progress with photography over the years. I was one of the first to jump into digital when it came out. So I saw it coming. I was shooting film. All those film crazy people with film were like, no, film's going to stay. This digital thing's never going to fly. And back then, this was like 2004, 2003, 2004, something like that. The digital cameras were like not good enough for a pro. The medium format digital cameras were the only thing that were worthwhile. And I was like, it was expensive. I was like, I jumped in first. So it seems like I have this kind of thing going where I jump into things first. When this NFT thing caught my attention, I was like, I think I've always been a high risk person. I've always gotten into stuff that ahead of the curve, maybe I would say. So I did that with the digital photography. When it went digital, I went all into it. So when I started hearing about NFTs and then I had an opportunity to launch this project, I was like, I'm in, let's go. I had heard enough. I was like, now's the time, let's go. So we were thinking of a name. So what happened was one of the photographers that I had coached and actually is a really great photographer and one of my associates on the headshot crew called me and said, look, I've been researching and really looking into this and I want to put a team together and I want to launch a community driven photography inspired NFT. And I was like, and he's like, I want to do it with you. And I was like, and I had been hearing enough and most of it came out of Gary Vee's mouth. And I was like, just listening to him and I love him and everything he says. So I was like, I wish I had paid more attention from the get-go, but I had also been able to photograph Tom Bilyeu, and Tom was talking about launching an NFT as well. So my first purchase of an NFT was actually Tom's legendary token, which I ended up getting a founder's key from him, which was really cool because that was my first foray into it. And then I wanted to also buy a Shabanger just to go through the process and to run these photographers through it. It was just cool. But when Vadim said, we got to do this project, what are we going to call it? And I was like, I have no idea. First, he had to find an artist. So we found Sergey, who's in the Ukraine, and these are the I don't know how bright, they're a little bright, but the Shabangrs are behind me. So the Vadim shows me this shot of the first Shabanger I saw, and I was like, what? That's the coolest thing. There's like a camera on their head. The artwork's amazing. Sergey's a rock star. I was like, I'm in. What do we got to do something? Now we got to name him something. What are we going to name him? So I had done a video that went viral on YouTube, which everybody listening should watch, because you'll look better in front of a camera if you do this. The number one way to make somebody more attractive, or to look for yourself to look more attractive in front of a camera, is to jam your forehead towards it so you get your jawline out. So it's called It's All About the Jaw. Yeah. And it's about strengthening your jawline when you're in front of a camera. Most people raise the camera to think they have a better jawline, but you don't have to do that. You just got to jam your forehead out. If people look at this video, within the video, for some reason, at a certain point, I show this girl and she's gorgeous, but she's got her chin back, and then she sticks her chin out. And at that very moment, I yell Shabang really loud into the mic. And this was like, I did it on my iPhone. I barely knew what I was doing. I was just told, hey, you should put one of your tips on YouTube way back when. I think it's got 4 million views now, or 4 or 5 or something. And it put me on all the shows here in New York City, like the talk shows like Good Morning America and stuff. And they were all talking about me. And I just yelled Shabang once. And then I ended up like walking around town and people would start yelling Shabang at me, like in the street. It was crazy. And then I would go to photo conferences and I was like, I'm going to get on stage and just yell Shabang. So I got all the photographers yelling Shabang. And then Shabang became this thing. I say when I get a good picture and I feel it in my bones, I yell Shabang. I just like to get excited about it. And since I shoot portraits, I want the subject to be excited about it. So I got sick of it. This video came out in 2011. I got sick of saying it and I stopped. And this marketing guy was like, you can't stop. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you can't, that's your tagline. That's your phrase. That's your thing. I was like, yeah, but I don't really want to say it. He goes, no, you got to keep saying it. I was like, oh my gosh. So to this day, like it amazes me, because my favorite ones, I was in Paris and I was walking down the street, a guy ran out of a restaurant, Shabang. And my friend who was Parisian, who was showing me around, this isn't happening in my town. He's, what is going on here? How is this possible? I was like, I don't know. But the best one was this. I'm riding a bike in New York City, and which is not a big deal, but and this cop is directing traffic, and I ride by the cop and he goes, Shabang. And I was like, I slam on the brakes. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Since it was attached to my brand, it's a funky word. It's got a little coolness behind it, which a lot of the NFT projects are coming out with cool names and stuff. I was like, let's call it Shabangrs, and let's get rid of the E because we'll just make it shorter and it's just cooler. So a Shabanger is what's behind me. The Shabangrs as a whole is the project. And the thing is that I didn't want it to be so much about me and my brand because Shabang matches my brand. I really want other photographers in the photo community to embrace it and bring it on. So we're working on a Metaverse and all this other stuff. And I want to bring some other influencers besides myself in behind the brand. So, I've been steady at work at that. And the thing that's helping me the most is that this NFT thing that nobody heard about a year ago, basically, is now people are like, what is it? And I'm getting calls like every day. What is it? What's going on? How do we do this? What's the story? Everybody wants to know. It's this hot new thing. For you, it must be amazing to be able to talk about something that just popped out and is here.
Oh man, I absolutely love that. And I don't know if we've had Gary Vee on here a couple of times, so you've given me a mission in life now. I'm not going to rest until I hear Gary Vee say Shabang. I'm going to do some work behind the scenes, see if we can make something happen.
Oh my gosh. I met him once. I've seen him like once or twice, and we were DMing somehow. Something came up. I went to one of his events and I was just quiet behind the zines, and afterwards he said, I thought I saw you there. And I said, I really want to take your portrait at some point. And he's done. Let's do it. And then he's like the busiest guy on the planet, and it's hard to pin him down, and I'm busy. But it's going to happen. It'll happen at some point. I'll get him in front of my camera, I'm sure, because I just gleaned too much off. I wouldn't have done this without his inspiring me to do it. I'm constantly trying to learn from him, and he's got his finger on the pulse. And I certainly think that most of the people in the space are trying to absorb as much information right now as they can. I just happen to like his whole deal, and I wish I had gotten in on a VFriends early, but I did not.
One of the reasons I'm here and I left my IT life behind was because I was on that commute to the office every day listening to Gary Vee, and the rest is kind of history. So I'm 100% with you there. And I was also doing a bit of research on the whole Shabang thing, and I saw Shabangrsville, which is like a virtual city in the metaverse where people are able to connect and collaborate with other photographers and creatives. Again, incredible vision that you've got here, but can you just share that with the listeners?
I think it's amazing. We got the collection, so I was like, all right, what are we going to do? How are we going to build this thing, and what are we going to do with these guys? What are they actually going to be doing? And I was like, I want them to walk around and we'll call it Shabangrsville. I'll be the mayor. And then we'll create spaces for them. So each Shabanger comes with a plot of land that they can build out on. They'll get a plot of land but they'll have a wall that they put their Shabanger on. So for me, I think being a photographer, it can be a little lonely. Luckily, I'm a portrait photographer, but a lot of photographers out there shoot other things. And I just remember when I started, I was in the darkroom, and I would work on my images, and they'd come up, and next to me there'd be a photographer working on their images. I'd be like, whoa, that's cool, look at that. And they'd be, that's pretty cool, look at that. Then we'd hang them up and let them dry. And I developed these relationships with these photographers, and I felt like we don't really have that ability anymore. Who's going to know photographers with the technology? You're not going in the dark room anymore. So I was like, Shabangrsville allows us to go in, like the photographer can have a gallery in their space with their work on the walls, and people can go view it, and they could show it to other photographers. I actually coach a lot of photographers through my coaching platform. And I don't, especially with COVID, I was in Australia when I had flown there for a world championship. I still race sailboats. And then the thing hit, and then the flights were getting stopped and everything, and they canceled the world championship. My wife said, you should have never went there. And I had 2 workshops, one in Sydney and one in Melbourne, that I was supposed to do. And they were sold out. And I was like, damn, what am I going to do? So I flew back. I paid everybody back. I got back to New York, and I quarantined in my studio for 2 weeks. And I just thought, how am I going to get back to Australia? And I was thinking about this. I can teach through a Zoom meeting or something like that. But could you imagine sitting in the room with these people virtually and looking? It's going to change my game completely. And I think the learning curve for people will go up. I think there'll be more attention with people in the metaverse than before. And I think more and more people are going to get acclimated to it. I am not a gamer. I never put on a VR headset. I don't even know what I think I put one on once and I freaked out. I have no idea what this is going to be like, but like I said before, I'm always like, I've been pretty much my whole life been a risk taker. I'm like one of those guys that something comes in front of me, I just go for it. So I did this. And then we started talking about the possibilities of Shabangrsville. And now I actually have sponsors and companies calling me to talk to me about NFTs and getting involved with Shabangrsville and starting that are photo industry related, which is cool. So it seems, and Gary said this a lot, I listened to him on it. He said the timing was right for him. He put his time in with Wine Library. He built his following. He did all this. And then this thing hit and it's been a huge success. I feel I obviously don't have that level of success, but in the photo industry, I started teaching in 2011. I started to build my group, and now I have a decent following. So for me as a photographer, I'm positioned in a really good spot for photographers who are really interested. And the main point is that these things look so cool that people want to get involved, and then they want to find out what the community is going to be all about. And that's what I'm trying to drive.
And I'm curious here, as someone that has been involved in the traditional photography industry for many years, and then you made that move early into digital, why is it you think NFTs are the actual next logical step for the photography industry?
I think the most phenomenal thing about it, from my perspective, I'm always teaching photographers that they need multiple sources of income. For me, as a portrait photographer, I need a human in front of me to make a dime. I got to press the button, get paid, they pay for their session or whatever. Those sessions and all that work, a lot of photographers shoot other things that can easily go and become NFTs. My thought is, if I have somebody coming in that's maybe a celebrity or something, I could sell it as an NFT. I could talk to them about it prior to the shoot and decide what it is that we're going to do with it. But immediately you've got a residual source of income. You sell the NFT, right? You've got the NFT, and then any future sales you get a portion of, a royalty on, which is now attached through the blockchain, which is phenomenal. And I think photographers can go back into their archives and pull out some of their most phenomenal work that they could have shot even on film or however long ago. And now they can get a library or a gallery up in something like Foundation and be selling this stuff and getting a royalty on top of it. It's going to change lives, I think. And I think there's photographers that are just going to actually shoot for things that will be amazing as NFTs. I think it's going to be really huge.
And I suspect we might have a few traditional photographers listening that find the whole space quite intimidating. So for those people, how can those photographers take advantage of NFTs? Can you possibly walk me through how to get the most from your platform?
I think the first thing is that get involved. We're walking people through it, how to get a MetaMask, get your wallet set up, get some funds in and be able to purchase an NFT yourself. Go through the process yourself. Obviously, as far as I know, we're the first community-driven collectible that's photo-related in the world. So I would hope that photographers would gravitate towards Shabangrs and jump on them and then become part of the community where we're all learning together. I think community is a huge thing. My headshot crew community, my thing, I just feel lucky that I picked up a camera. I don't know what I would have done with my life. My brother was like a finance guy. My parents were like, no, you go work for him. You don't have anything going on in your life. Go work for your brother. And I was like, I really like photography. I think there's a lot of people who are artists out there who don't know how to rub two nickels together and they just can't figure it out. And now we've got a platform where you could learn. I'm a educator these days. I'm a Canon Explorer of Light. I still shoot, but I consider myself entrepreneurial. So I have a bunch of different things that I'm working on. I have physical products that I sell to photographers and things of that nature. So this was a natural path for me to stay on this curve that I was like, it's exciting. I was like, this thing fell out of the blue. Like I was like, what? Why did I not listen to Gary sooner? Damn. We're still early, guys. It's still okay. Everybody's all right.
Man, and it's funny you should say that because I'm approaching 2,000 interviews on here. One of the reasons I always ask about the origin story of people is I think all too often we celebrate the success rather than the journey that people have been on. And again, it's something that I've probably inherited from Gary because he always talks about that too. And I would say that when people say to me, everyone you speak with, these successful people, what do they all have in common? And I think in most cases, it's serendipity. And when they do feel lost, the universe, if you look for the signs, almost gives you a little nudge in the right direction. You can't explain it, but it almost happens that way, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Can I swear?
Yeah, man, go for it.
That was perfect. That's what I believe in that. I really do. I think that if you have that kind of mindset, it's a different ballgame for you. And I always listen to photographers. There's this unbelievable thing. I listen to photographers who complain about their income and what they're doing, and they're trying to get coached by me. And I'm like, you got to stop doing that. What are you doing? You're just, I call it down talking. I was like, you're down talking. You're never going to get anywhere if you're a down talker. And if you don't start to believe in yourself and start to up talk and talk yourself up, it's not going to happen. So they'll give me all this negativity and I'm doing like a mentoring session with them. And I'm like, I'm ready. I'm like, they're paying me for, I was like, I got to get off this call. I can't handle this. I'm like, look, you got to watch this video. So if you're listening, Google Bob Newhart, stop it and watch that. It's the funniest thing. I show it to all the people I'm coaching, and I'm just like, just stop it. Stop doing that. And I think what you said, the serendipitous part of being successful is a huge factor. It's a huge factor. And I think it stems from belief and like actually feeling that you could pull something off. My definition of success for me was always like making a plan and pulling it off. So if I felt like I could, I just had the belief that it could happen. And if you believe, you put the work in and it's going to happen, I think things happen that way.
No, 100% with you on that. And for anybody listening, I lost my train of thought. You blew me away with that, man. It's just, we speak the same language, 100%.
With that too. I mean, we're on the same page. I love it. I hadn't met Neil. I was like, Neil's awesome. I feel like I got to hang with you when I get to the UK.
Oh, that is going to happen. Or when I go to the US, make no mistake about that. Yeah. What's next for Shabangrs? What's your big focus this year?
Focus is really the metaverse. If we can get that going, because that's really the thing that there's a couple things that are really cool though. This is funny. I have this coaching platform called the Headshot Crew, and within it, we give rewards to people for getting a headshot of the month or headshot of the week or posting something and talking about, and they get points. And the points are called Shabucks. So when we came out with Shabangrs, I was like, what do we should have when they're in the metaverse? They should be able to buy stuff and we should have a coin. We should have a crypto coin. She's like, what are we going to call it? I was like, we're obviously going to call it Shabucks. I was like, you got to have a Shabak. So we're going to bring Shabucks, which is just awesome because I have to figure out the price on this thing because one of the guys in my coaching group has 70,000 of them already. I was like, what is that Shabak going to be worth when we launch this sucker? I was like, I got to give it's really cool. So the concept and the fact that it was and again, we're talking serendipity, the timing with Facebook going to Meta, like all of this is becoming mainstream and we are at the forefront. So to be there and to have the opportunity is enormous. So I'm just excited about it. So we're doing the Shabangrsville thing, getting the photographers that own the Shabangrs, the utilities that are attached to them, which they've already been using, which is really cool. So I do this workshop called the Headshot Intensive. And I said, anybody with 3 Shabangrs can come to I have a studio in Burbank, California. And I did the workshop out there. And I said, if you have 3 Shabangrs, first 3 people are in. And these people hit me up right away. They came to the workshop. They had an awesome time. Those are some of the utilities that are involved in it. I also designed these lights through Westcott is the company. And it's called the Peter Hurley Cineflex Kit. And we gave one away to one of the Shabangrs holders, had it as a utility. And it's given more value to the Shabangr itself. And we have different utilities out there. One of them is going to be that they get a plot of land in Shabangrsville. So we're building that out. We just had a meeting this morning, right? I just got the message right before I came on here. And we're doing a press conference at 3 p.m. today here on Eastern time. And the guy, the developer who we hired for the Metaverse is going to be on talking about it. So it's all exciting stuff. It's just crazy because I'm like in a new world.
Man, it's incredibly cool. I love how it's almost like the planets have aligned at the right time for you as well. And I also love how your friend there just said, well, it's got to be Shabangrs. You know, why wouldn't it be Shabangrs? But we've come full circle now. We began talking about your origin story, how you get here and what put you on this path. But as we've come full circle, I want to ask you if there was a song, piece of music, movie or book that has inspired or helped you in your career. What would it be? And we'll add it to either a Spotify playlist or an Amazon wish list or something. But do you have a song, anything you can share with us on that?
I have a song. I don't know why this song always hit me. It was Won't Back Down by Tom Petty.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually had this Series 2A 1962 Land Rover that I imported from the UK over to the States. And I drove on the right-hand side of it, and I'll never forget blaring that. I was going over a bridge into Manhattan, and I cranked that song so loud, and I was just starting my career, and I was having a rough day, and I was having some problems going on maybe, and I was like, I won't back down. And ever since, whenever I hear that song, I'm like, I'm on. This is it. It turns me on. It turns me around. It gets me going, and it's always been that for me. So I was kind of tough when Tom Petty's left us now, but I do throw that song on every once in a while and I crank it as loud as I can. And I just, anytime that I feel like I'm up against the wall, I'm like, I'm not backing down. This is not happening. You know?
Oh man, I love that. I'll get that on our Spotify playlist for everyone listening. And for anyone listening who wants to find out more information about anything we've talked about today, maybe see some videos and everything in action or connect with you or your team, what's the best starting point?
The best way to stay in, if they're interested in the NFT project, it's shabangrs.com without the E, and it's a Shabangrs with an A. And then the best way to track me is through Instagram. I'm at Peter_Hurley. And on my link in my bio, it's got everything I've got going on at any time. So that's really the best way to find me. And
if you make them, or if you're going to make them, I'm going to get myself a Shabang t-shirt. Maybe not just a physical one for my avatar in the Metaverse too, man. I need one for that. I love it.
We are going to make them. That's on the ticket too. We're actually working that out as we speak as well.
Really?
Swag. We got to have swag.
I'll stay in touch with you. Hopefully we can meet in person soon on this side or your side of the Atlantic, man. We'll make that happen. Sure. And I'm also determined to get Gary Vee to say Shabang next time he sees you, but we'll try and make that happen. But thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Shabang, what a cool guy and an amazing story. And I just love how Peter has been involved in the photography industry for many years. And one thing that stood out from listening to his story there is how he's always been quick to adapt, evolve, try new things. And that's what photography is. That's what art is. It's not about, well, we've always done it this way. So I just love that fusion of traditional photography and technology and the art that is being created there. And then obviously with the NFTs as well, which does feel like the next logical step for photography. And I will be buying him a beer on my next trip to the US. And a big thank you to Peter, if you're listening back to this, for discussing your journey into NFTs and how photographers can take advantage of NFTs, how they're changing the industry, as well as the story behind the Shabangrs project as a whole. And I'm also going to do a cheeky email to Gary Vee. He may not respond, but I'm going to try and get him to do that headshot. But as always, I'll leave this one wide open to you. Let me know your thoughts on this one. And feel free to send any links over to anything that you're working on too. And if you want to come on the podcast, the door is open. So email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram at Neil C. Hughes. And you can find my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. But it's time for me to go. I don't want to be the guy that stays at a party too long and outstays his welcome. I've taken up too much of your time already, but I will return again tomorrow. So thanks for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.